I thought in this next photograph, we would try to get just a nice photograph of our groom. There are occasions when we do visit the groom's home, too. It's a lot of running on the wedding day, but sometimes we do it. But again, there's also some times when we'll even bring the bride and the groom to just one person's home and then just do a lot of photographs there. Yes, I'm implying that we do have our bride and groom seeing each other beforehand. We still do that about 70% of the time, but it lets us get these really cool photographs without the hustle and the bustle of end of ceremony, start of wedding reception. Anyway. That aside, let's see what we can pull together here with Christian, our groom here. When I look at the overall scene, what I'm seeing is, number one, the arch going into the dining area. I'm going to let that become what I call an interior frame. The exterior frame is what we see in the viewfinder when we look through it. It's what frames everything. But we also have other lines and shapes and forms within the image itself that we can also use to frame up our subject. So I'm going to use the arch of the dining room to frame up my subject as well. Now, to visually balance the scene, I have some heavy, dark furniture on the right-hand side in the background of the dining room, and on the left-hand side, I've got some wall decor hanging here too. So I think they balance each other, both in tonality, both in weight, both in color, and then we'll just have our groom right in the middle, focusing, or with everything kind of leading to him in our focus here. There's also kind of an interesting piece of foliage in the background that I'm really going to kind of hide behind the groom, and because I think it would detract from these other, let's say, more masculine kinds of pieces surrounding him. To really make him more dominant in the scene, I'm back to my wide-angle lens, my 10 to 22 millimeter lens. It looks like around 14 millimeter is about where it needs to be. And the other things that's happening too is it's making that plant in the background that I want to diminish in the scene, it's actually making it get smaller anyway, because wide-angle lens, he's pretty much in the foreground. I can hide that plant behind him, while at the same time still framing him with the arch of the dining room. And just a couple right here, great. Christian, let me turn you this way a little bit. Now bring your head back a fraction. And both hands. Let's do both hands in the pockets. Another thing that I'm noticing is when I look that way, I'm actually seeing the reflection of the windows into the mirror, or in the mirror that's above the piece of furniture. So I'm actually shifting myself so I don't have to deal with that bright light there, which means that now, Christian, you have to shift this way just a fraction to hide that plant that we've been kind of talking about. Okay, and I'm going to turn your head just slightly this way, chin down a little bit. Aaron, you got him loop-lit beautifully for me. Okay, perfect, perfect. Christian, this way, just another inch, whole body. Just feet too. A little bit more. A little bit more. Now turn your head back. Right there. There we go. And again. And I could come closer. What happens if I come closer here? And again, right here. Good. And now the right hand out of the pocket like we were doing before. And I'm thinking I like higher camera position so I can see that arch. Turn your head this way again, a fraction. Chin down a fraction. Good. Another thing I'm trying to do too, whenever I'm using these wide-angle lenses, just so I don't really show that I'm using the wide-angle lenses, is I'm going to try to orient my camera so that I can keep the left vertical lines and the right vertical lines pretty well parallel, so we don't get any of this convergence kind of stuff going on. And I think what happens then, we create just a really nice wide-angle portrait of our groom or whoever. I've said this a couple of times before, that I think even though most of the time the people in front of my camera are brides and grooms, what I'm really talking about is just solid portrait lighting technique. This could easily be a view or a portrait of an executive in his home or whatever. I think it still works that way as well. It's always about the lighting. It's always about the composition here, whether it's brides and grooms or whomever else that we happen to be photographing. I think with the addition of Aaron's light coming in here, I think it looks pretty good. Aaron, let me have you back up just a little bit more. Even though my exposure is looking good, I'm just going to soften that light just a bit more. I'm also using, by the way, I'm at ISO 800. I'm at a 30th of a second at 5.6. That 30th of a second is letting me burn in some of that ambient light in the background that's actually looking, I think, quite nice in our scene here. So, getting those lines parallel like we talked about, but I still like the higher angle. Maybe a head and shoulders of him works well. And I am seeing some of that reflection of the mirror, but I'm going to live with it right now. How about arms folded for me, Kristen? Let's see what that does. And that's thumbs in, fingers out. Perfect. Good, good, good. And again. I like picking up both of those pieces of wall decor on the left. I think they work pretty well. And maybe even the horizontal shot helps me even more in this shot. And I think we've got some cool things going on. I'm going to go ahead and let's do it a couple more. Same arms folded again. Let's go down to a 1/15 of a second, see if I can burn that background in even more. When I'm looking through the viewfinder, my camera is telling me that it's saying, hey, David, you're still about a stop underexposed on your ambient. Well, I think that's okay, but let's see what's going on here and see if it brightens it up even more. Let me have you tuck that thumb in even more. So just like that. Okay, good. All righty. And again, here we go. Whenever I'm working at really slower shutter speeds, I will go ahead and click off a couple different times, and hopefully one of them will be sharp enough for me for the shot. I think we got kind of a cool shot of our groom here, just in this nice natural surrounds, going back into the hallway with the balance of the pieces we were just talking about.